Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into Poets and Quants' Online MBA panel. Today, we're talking about the student experience, and we're joined by alumni of top programs who will tell us what it's like to get an MBA online. Please feel free to use the Q&A function to submit any questions you have for our panelists, and I'll do my best to get to those at the end of the session. Let's begin by getting to know our panelists. Please, each of you take a minute to introduce yourself, your current position at work, and your online program. And if you have a fun fact about yourself, please share that as well. All right, we'll start with you, Patrick.
Hi, thank you so much, Christy. My name is Patrick Connors. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm currently at the Ross School of Business, and I have just over 7 years working in automotive supply chain and packaging at Chet. I started out as an analyst and have had several roles in customer service, business development, but today I'm a commercial development manager focusing on the electric vehicle segment. And a fun fact about myself is I love paddleboarding, but living in Michigan, there's a short period of time where I can do that. So I take advantage of it when I go to Florida or go on vacation, try and do that as much as I can.
Very good. How about you, Carl?
Sure. My name is Carl Munich. I am at CMU's Tepper School of Business. I currently am a software engineering manager at Meta. I've been in the industry working for about 13 years at a variety of different fields, a lot in robotics and automation. And a fun fact about me is I really enjoy woodworking and building furniture in my spare time when I have it, which is not a whole lot during the online MBA, but it does still happen.
Interesting. And how about you, Vaibhav?
Hi, everyone. My name is Vaibhav Janarkar. I'm a second-year MBA student at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. I currently work as a product manager at Ebix Incorporated. I've been in the financial services industry catering to the life insurance business for the past 18 years, and happy to be here speaking with you guys.
We're happy to have you, and welcome to each and every one of you. So let's get started by just talking first a little bit about the decision-making process. Patrick, what led you to pursue an online MBA? Did you consider a full-time program or any other type of graduate business degree?
So I definitely knew when I finished my undergraduate degree that I was interested in pursuing an MBA. And as I kind of got into the workforce, I realized that I didn't really want to leave. So I really started only looking at like part-time online weekend programs. So that's kind of where I kind of focused my search. And I really liked the relationships and the networks I had formed in my work circles. And I wanted to kind of enhance those with an MBA and continue to kind of apply some of the things. And I found that what I really like about that is being able to apply some of the things that I would learn in an MBA at work right away without having to wait, a year or two before applying them, and kind of being able to have a better dialogue with professors and ask questions and things like that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I chose a part-time online MBA as opposed to, some of the full-time or maybe other graduate programs.
And what about you, Carl?
My reasoning for the online MBA was fairly pragmatic. I've been working for about 10 or so years when I started the program. And for me, it did not make sense to stop working and be able to take that income hit. I have a family. I have my wife and 2 kids, and there's just no way that I would be able to swing that. So it had to be a part-time program, and the Tepper program was one that I was really excited about, and I lived in the area, so I knew a lot about it. So for me, it was a very easy choice.
And same question, Vaibhav.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Patrick and Carl said, that, for me, making a decision for an online MBA program was primarily hinged on the fact that I did not have to quit my job, leave my working experience and go to a full-time program or even an executive MBA program, which tend to be extremely expensive. So online MBA program was something that I was really interested in looking at, exploring more and understanding, what every program has to offer, what are their differences, and that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl, what were the key factors that led you to choose your particular program?
So I might have to pass for that one, in the sense that I worked at CMU at the time I was deciding. So for me, it was a tuition benefit. I can give a lot of examples of why I'm very happy I chose this program, but I think that others may speak better to early on decision making.
Yeah, fair enough. YPAF, how about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say for me, the decision was primarily looking at top-rated online MBA programs in the US, and also something that was affordable and that added value for me as a student. And and Kelley School of Business kind of checked all the boxes in my situation.
Yeah, and anything to add, Patrick?
I would say for me, Ross's online program being somewhat new, there wasn't a lot of information yet available on the program. But there was a lot of great information available on the part-time programs and on the weekend programs, things like that. So I was confident in that information enough and I also kind of wanted to be part of like I'm the second class that started the program. So I wanted to be kind of part of something new, kind of like a startup, if you say. And I did, like I said, a lot of the great benefits that we have at Ross, like the MAP program that we do, and a lot of the online residencies, which we are able to be in person with some of the people you meet online. I really like those aspects of it, and that's kind of what led me to choose this program.
Very good. Thank you all. We're going to move on a little bit to the particulars of your different programs, and we'll start with you, Wypov. Tell us a bit about the learning experience at your school. What are the classes you like? How many do you take at one time? And how do you interact with professors and other students?
Yeah, so in terms of the number of courses, the way the program is structured, the first year has primarily all the core courses that everybody has to take. And that's just because, the school wants to create that foundational start to your MBA program. And the core classes tend to be, basically you cannot pick and choose, they are there. So you have to take those. There are 3 courses, but they are staggered. So at a time, there are only 2 courses that are running in parallel at Kelley. And in terms of interacting with students and professors, a lot of learning happens during the live sessions. And the professors usually put us out and give us a question prompt, put us out in a breakout room for discussion, and then pull us back in to share our discussion with everybody in the class. So that's primary way of interacting with other students and asking questions to the professors and keeping that class conversation engaged.
Yeah, Patrick, what about the learning experience at Ross?
I'll say that I really appreciate like how the courses and the time and effort that's put into how they're laid out. There's different, modules that are both asynchronous and synchronous. So the, asynchronous modules you can work on at your own pace. And especially with me where my work can be very busy at some parts and, slower times at other periods, it allows me to be able to, during those busy times, just focus on the synchronous module or a group project, something like that with my peers. But then in those asynchronous modules, on a weekend, I can work through and get all of those, get up to where I need to be or work ahead to where I'd like to be. Definitely echo Wahib about the, the breakout rooms, things like that. That's, a really great way to get to know peers better. But I guess for how many I take at one time, I would say that kind of depends on what I think my work schedule is going to be. Usually I'm kind of switching between doing like a core class and doing one of the elective classes as well. So I'm trying to pair those up at a time. And then I kind of talked a little bit about those residencies. So depending on how many credits those all are and how the time commitment, I try and manage my schedule that way so that I'm able to get a mix of things. So I'm not kind of doing all of the same sorts of activities and learning right now. So like right now I'm taking a digital marketing course. And I'm also doing a diversity, equity, inclusion toolkit class, which is like a smaller credit course because I had just done our international residency earlier this summer. So that's kind of how I'm structuring it now. And then I really like that we have like our instructional support members that can help us in addition to the professor. So they're always available, and they'll do like Zoom office hours and things like that. So if you have specific questions, like for me, I'm not very strong in quant, so being able to go to them, but for accounting help or with statistics, it's really great to have them, and also be able to meet with the professor before or after class, the Zoom class times as well.
And Carl, the learning experience at Tepper.
Sure. So similar to some of the other panelists, at Tepper, it's PACE, where you have core classes at the beginning and then more electives towards the end. The work for the year is divided out into 6 mini semesters, and each mini semester you take 2 classes at a time. They all follow a similar format in the sense that there's typically asynchronous content that you can watch offline, but it's paced, so you have to typically get through it that week, and then there's a live lecture session or discussion or different activities we'll do. There is a tremendous amount of team and group work that we do. That's where I find that a lot of value, in addition to the classes, is a lot of the outside group work and projects that we end up working on. There are office hours, as some of the other panelists mentioned, at their respective schools. And I'd say one thing that's always surprised me is just how flexible the faculty are at Tepper. They have a tremendous amount of respect for the scheduling or the juggling that the part-time folks have to do. And so they seem to be able to bend over backwards in terms of making time or to carve out to meet with you or to work around your schedule. So a tremendous amount of flexibility from the faculty in that sense.
Great. So back to you, Patrick. How much project work versus individual work are the courses, would you say? And tell us a little bit about how the teamwork is structured at Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that in a traditional sense, in your quantitative classes or accounting, there's not as much teamwork. It's mostly individual. But in a lot of the classes, like the digital marketing class I'm taking right now, or some of the management organization strategy classes, there's a lot of where the class is broken up into smaller groups where we'll have like certain deliverables throughout the year. So actually what I'm doing right now is we're kind of have like it's called a leader LDRX pod. So throughout the week, I'm meeting weekly with my group, and we've kind of just picked a time that works well for everybody. And we kind of have like a smaller little group meeting where we're able to go through certain activities and some of the class discussions, things like that. And then we come into the class, kind of with our output, more or less. And then in other classes, you might have like a project. So you're either working on a presentation or perhaps a group paper together that you have a deliverable at the end of the period. And there's certain points throughout the semester where you'll check in with the professor. They'll give you feedback on how the project's going, any tips, things like that. But I'd say it's pretty evenly split, between individual and project work. And the nice thing about this is it definitely was not the same, much higher level experience, much more engagement in these group projects than I had in undergraduate. I know in my undergraduate, I was like, oh my gosh, this group project can never end. What's really great is because I think of the caliber of the students and everyone, wanting to be in this program, the group projects have gone very well. And then additionally, it's, kind of everyone focuses on what they're good at. So you have a really diverse group of people that you're working with, and you can kind of, everyone leans on each other for what their different strengths are.
Carl, do you have any more to add on the group project versus individual teams from your previous answer at Tepper?
I'd say it's similar in terms of what Patrick said. There's a divide of like quantitative things tend to be less group, but I'd say most of the classes, almost all the classes, involve some amount of group work and collaboration, which I think is pretty reflective of how we operate in the business world. And the only other thing I would add is, in my experience, the first year or so, the groups are typically just assigned because you don't really know anybody yet. You're trying to figure it all out. So they just kind of take care of that for you. And then you have a little more freedom as time goes on to pick and choose who you're working with.
Yeah. And how about you, Wybhav?
Yeah, I think I will also echo what Patrick and Carl said about their programs respectively. And, at IU, there's a lot of emphasis on group work, and everybody that is assigned in the group is pretty much, they come from a very diverse backgrounds and bring in a lot of different perspectives into the assignment and the task that's been assigned to us. And again, the quantitative courses tend to be individual work based, but more like strategy and entrepreneurship based classes are more heavy on group work and activities.
Yeah, that makes sense. Carl, could you talk some about the extracurricular or student organization opportunities at Tepper, and if you're involved in any?
Sure. So I'm actually the president for our part-time GBA. So I help to lead that group, and which builds on serving the part-time community here at Tepper. A lot of that is focused around like putting energy and enabling other people on the GBA board to do initiatives, whether that's on site, we have access weekends when everyone comes into town, or providing remote opportunities, connections with clubs, things like that. So I've ended up getting a lot of involvement in that area, and it's been very gratifying. We also have I've also been involved in a few clubs, the consulting club, data analytics, business and technology, and a few others that are escaping my mind. And one thing I would say is, if you want to say a positive from the pandemic, is a lot of the clubs, at least at Tepper, have switched to being much more open to enabling virtual and remote attendance, which has been great for those folks who are online and part-time. So that's been, I think, a tremendous value, as well as the case competitions that a lot of these clubs end up bringing, which I participated in as well. And that's, I think, a really great way to engage. A lot of these clubs provide a tremendous number of resources if you're looking to go into certain areas and industries, or if you want to become a product manager, become a consultant. There's lots and lots of materials and help for enabling folks that want to do interview prep or finding jobs and networking.
YPAV, same question.
Yeah, so I serve as the VP of Professional Development on the Kelley Direct Student Leadership Association. And in my role, I'm responsible for being a liaison between the student groups and the Kelley administration. So I work a lot with the graduate career services at Kelley School of Business, and work with the alumni that they have access to, so we can try and bring those alumni in as guest speakers at various points in time to share their insights from the industry experience, and help other students ask questions during those panel conversations with them. One of the aspects that I really liked about being engaged in the Student Leadership Association is the fact that the amount of networking you get to do, and you meet so many other people during the process. It's just amazing. And I would highly encourage anybody who is applying at Kelley School of Business to take advantage of these student associations and try and network, especially in an online program. Networking is something that is definitely on top of everyone's mind.
Yeah, and Patrick, how about you?
So I'll echo both what Carl and WAP have said about the different clubs and different opportunities, and them being much more accessible online. Ross has a number of different clubs, and I've really appreciated the opportunity to attend a lot of the speakers that they might bring in, whether it be alumni or business leaders. I've personally participated in the Out for Business, which is the LGBTQ plus club for the graduate students at Ross, which has been really great. Still being able to participate virtually as a part-time student. And then our automotive and mobility club really brings in some great speakers from the automotive industry, which I'm definitely interested in. So I really like to listen into some of those meetings that they do.
Very good. Thank you. YPAV, back to you. How does the program help facilitate and support networking with other members of your cohort, one another, alumni, recruiters, etc.?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, as part of my position on the executive board of the Kelley Direct Student Leadership Association, we try to engage people or students across the country to come together on one single day. The program is called Global Connect Night. So basically, we host the event in in various different cities. The last one we had just recently in May this year was hosted across 39 different cities in the US, where local students from all over the country came together for a networking night, for foods and food, drinks, and just networking, meeting other Kelley students. So that was a great way of bringing everybody together at different points in time and having that personal connection. You always see these people in little Zoom windows, but it is great to have them meet personally. So that's something that we recently hosted. And in terms of other networking channels, we have many different WhatsApp groups, again, catering to local connections where, people, let's say in the Hartford, Connecticut area or in New York City, they can come together, exchange messages with other fellow students.
Yeah, Patrick.
So for ours, I would say really similar. We have a lot of social and then networking events in different cities around the country. This is we did it before COVID, then we stopped. Then we kind of moved a lot of that stuff online, whether that be having like social events or kind of, I don't know, you could call them like happy hours, things like that, where people can get together, play a fun online game that was developed and, kind of get together that way. But I'm really excited as we're starting the social networking events in person again. We're actually having our one in Detroit coming up here in just 2 weeks or so from today. So really looking forward to that. But the other way that we do the networking and facilitation with alumni and recruiters is through our residencies, which we have in Ann Arbor. So we're able to all kind of come together for a class, and there's lots of other opportunities, like different events that are scheduled around those residency. So everybody has a chance to kind of have a lot of those in-person experiences that are hard to duplicate online. And then also we have our global residencies where we're able to meet with like other students, because I think I mentioned this maybe in our pre-session, but there's a lot of different students, that are, outside the United States, outside of North America, that are participating in our program, and we get to kind of meet them. So I was just in our one in Berlin, able to meet students, that came from all over the world there. And then I guess lastly, our career development office does a really great job at kind of connecting people with recruiters, whether that be virtually or the in-person opportunities that are available.
Yeah. And Carl, what about at Tepper?
In terms of me, I don't know if I got the original question. I got some of the responses.
No problem. So just talking about how your program supports networking with students, the cohort in general, alumni, recruiters, etc.
Yes. So in terms of supporting networking, similar to what some of the other panels said, 6 times a year, we do have in-person, like a long weekend where the cohorts for all get together and can see each other. So that's a really great networking opportunity. We do have a lot of side classes, whether that's through our career center as well as some of the different clubs. We'll put on events for how to more explicitly and intentionally network and build it up. We also even have a class dedicated to like managing networks that gives a lot of advice in terms of how to build it out. So those are some of the areas in terms of building out networks. And our GBA also works hard to help provide social connections remotely, whether that's in various cities or through online events.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch real quick here to a couple of Q&As that we've gotten in. The first one is particularly interested in, Patrick, the condition at Ross. Do you guys work with the full-time students or other MBA programs at the school? Is there any kind of cross-pollination?
Yeah, I would say during the specific, one of the residencies I was talking about, the leadership residency, there's an opportunity there where we all work together on called a leadership crisis challenge. So you're put in with different groups and they're specifically, spread out. You're working with full-time students, weekend MBA students and online MBA students, all kind of put together in one group working together. And then I also see the XC, I'm assuming extracurriculars. So yes, I think we mentioned it in my previous answer, but for extracurriculars, I'd say almost all of the clubs, I have to double check, but all the ones I've looked into and checked for, all offer the ability for weekend, part-time online MBA students to participate in them. Obviously, most of them do have a virtual option for meetings and things like that. And anytime there's a speaker, there's that opportunity there for you to join. And a lot of them actually allow like part-time students to be in leadership positions, I think, just like Carla and Bobby have shared. But yeah, definitely great opportunities to interact with them and work on them. But I would say from a class perspective, sometimes you have, especially with like the extracurricular or like the classes, not extracurriculars, but the classes that are not part of the core, you do have the opportunity to take, if you want to do a virtual class, there might be other people from different schools, even outside the business school, that are taking that class. Like the one class I'm in right now for DEI Toolkit, there's somebody from, a different school. It's like a Ford school, working on like international relations, things like that are taking that class as well.
And do the assigned cohorts all take the core classes together or at Ross?
No, they do not. Ross is flexible, so a little bit different than kind of what the other panelists have described. You can decide when you want to take those core classes. Obviously, there's a priority with scheduling. So if you've been in the program longer, you have a priority for picking classes. But yeah, there's a suggested cadence, but obviously you don't have to take it that way if you don't want to.
Great. Carl, what about at Tepper? Do you guys have the chance to work with the full-time and part-time programs as well?
There are opportunities to work with the full-time program. I would say that the way it's typically geared, the classes that are easier to take don't end up aligning with like the full-time schedule, the way it's lined up. But there's actually, the school doesn't differentiate between full and part-time in terms of what classes you can and can't take. So those who live in the Pittsburgh area, for example, can come on campus and take full-time classes with the full-timers. And the clubs, it's also a mix as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Wypov?
Yeah, so the way the Kelley program is structured, there is the only cross-pollination we see with the full-time students is when there's a case competition that one of the associations is hosting, or things like that, is when we can see people from full-time program coming in and engaging with the Kelley Direct community. Otherwise, the faculty that teaches the full-time program is also the same faculty that teaches the online MBA program. So, but in terms of the actual students coming and meeting other KD students, that's fairly limited. And I might have to check with our program if they do any other activities to encourage that.
Very good. Carl, what would you say are the 3 hallmarks of your experience so far?
It's funny. I saw that question. I was trying to debate what exactly how to interpret hallmarks, but I would say that the community of my cohort and the people I've been around and the support that I get there have been one of the biggest takeaways for me and one of the biggest value adds. I would say another is, if you want to say a hallmark, is having a better understanding of what my capabilities are, and exceeding my initial expectations of the person I thought I could be. I came in thinking I was one way, and the person I am today is much different than the person that I had entered in as. In terms of things that I would say even are more specific to the Tepper program, Tepper being closely associated with CMU, there's a lot of quantitative analysis, focus on a lot of what we do, and that's, I think, definitely a hallmark of this program. Is everything tends to be very data driven. Even things that may seem like soft science, like networking or managing people and teams, there's a lot of data science behind it, and I really find that's a valuable part of the experience.
Yeah. Wypov.
Yeah, I think for me, the 3 hallmarks would be in the order would be the in-residence opportunities that Kelley School of Business offers. Those in-residencies can be in the form of coming into Bloomington and working with actual employers or companies and work on a strategy case to solve their problem. One of the things that I recently completed was a global immersion where many students from Kelley program went to Ireland to see what is it in the macroeconomic context of the country that enables so much foreign direct investment into the country and understand how that whole thing operates. So it was a very insightful experience meeting with executives, the top executives from the government agencies, and also we visited a lot of high-performing organizations there to understand what makes them high-performing. So I think that was a very insightful experience in my mind. The second I would say is the ability to apply what you're learning in the class. You can directly take that and apply it to your job. And that's just because it comes because you are a working professional. So what you learn, you take that those concepts and you can directly apply it to your job. So that's one of the things that I've found extremely beneficial and helpful in my case. And then the third one I would say definitely is my involvement in the Kelley Direct Student Leadership Association, because it has enabled me to make connections with a lot of people, and the networking aspect and an online MBA program has been one of the best things.
Oh, very good. Patrick, how about you?
I'll go quickly, and I see we're getting close on time. So the first one would be the engaged professors and supportive staff at Ross. The second one would be the residency programs they both offer in Ann Arbor and Berlin. And the third one, which I think is, a great benefit of this, is the learning that I'm getting from my peers, the other working professionals with, diverse backgrounds and perspectives. Really gotten some really great ideas that I've been able to actually implement in my day-to-day from them in being in classes with them. So.
Yeah, thank you. Carl, not to put you on a spot, but we have a specific question from you from our Q&A. For someone living on the West Coast, what are some ways to connect with the current cohort? Do you have any ideas?
I can shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I can get you plugged in with our admissions ambassador and some other folks in the program. So that's probably the fastest way.
Thank you. We are going to switch to advice because we want to make sure we get to that. We do have one, pretty good question from our Q&A, and we'll start with Patrick for this one. What has been the biggest surprise so far in the MBA journey, and any tips for managing academics, work, and life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that transition back to having homework when you're done with work was definitely kind of the biggest transition for me. I knew it was coming, and I knew what it was, but just for me, it was, I graduated in 2015. So there was quite a, not a huge gap, but a gap in between when I was used to kind of doing that work. So that would be the one thing I prepare for. Just make sure you're, there's always those different poles between your social life, and I travel for work quite a bit. So trying to fit all of that in, definitely make sure you get your calendar out and are able to balance those schedules, especially if you have other commitments like family and other things like that. Definitely, that's probably been the biggest, surprise for me, beyond the actual learning and getting back into, how much, I forgot how much I loved just learning new things and kind of all of that. That was probably the best thing in being able to apply that. So that'd probably be the biggest surprise for me. And then any tips for managing academics, work, and life? I mean, I personally live off of my calendar. If it's not, I think I was talking to Christy earlier in our pre-session saying I've had this on my calendar, this event on my calendar for the last few weeks. I'm really looking forward to it, getting prepared. So that's one thing I've been very diligent about. If it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. And being able to say no for things, I think is important. That's something that I think just from a work-life balance perspective, I've been trying to work on. It's you always want to say yes and try and grow your career and do that next thing. It's okay to say no if it's not in your best interest or strategically something you want to do. So I think that's kind of where I've been trying to, if it's something at work, taking on an extra project, and it's not really going to be a great benefit to me and there's someone else better for it, I'm going to say, hey, I think, this candidate or this coworker would be better to do that project. And I'm going to focus on something that's good for me. So.
Thank you. YPOV, what about you? Biggest surprise and tips for managing academics, work, and life.
Yeah, I think I echo what Patrick already said, and just something to add new to that is, I graduated from my undergrad after a long time. I joined the MBA program, so it took some time for me to get into a rhythm of reading those dense Harvard case studies and try to go through like 46 pages of material and then try to complete an assignment. So I think that was the biggest surprise, and I wasn't expecting it would be that intense. But it was a fun way of learning, and once you get into a cadence, it just becomes second nature, and you get through those things fairly quickly. And yes, Outlook calendar is your best buddy throughout the program, whether it's a personal event or whether it's a school related event or work related event. Everything has to go on a calendar just to manage your time effectively. And I echo what Patrick said. You got to say no at times when there's a birthday party or something else going on in your personal life, and you cannot manage everything else. So you got to prioritize.
Yeah. Carl, what about you?
Yeah, I would amplify that. I'd say ruthless prioritization is really key, and especially when leading into the program, whether it's your friends or loved ones, family in the area, like try to align on what the expectations are for like what your availability is, or maybe you're not sure, but have a like carve out whether it's 1 day a week if you have a partner like that you have with your partner 1 day a week, maybe with family, where that's sacred time, because the rest of it will likely be filled up by commitments to school and other things. Like you'll find ways to squeeze it in, but it's really important to understand what's important in your life and to make sure that you carve that out of your schedule and that it can't be touched by other things. I think that's really important. I'd also say taking care of yourself, like exercising, eating well, and sleeping. It's really tempting to let those things go, but if you don't take care of yourself and your body, you will not be able to do the other things that you care about.
Yeah, absolutely. YPAV, what do you have any advice for, maybe the non-traditional business students who's kind of nervous about the quantitative aspects of the program?
Yeah, look, I mean, the way the Kelley program is structured, barring the core courses, you have to take the core classes, and there are some quantitative material in those, like economics or basic business analytics. There is some quantitative stuff involved in there. But then when it comes to taking up those electives, it's up to the student where they want to go with their career, with their MBA program. Like if somebody is not good at taking quants, finance is definitely not a major for them. But then there are strategy courses and then entrepreneurship classes which are less on quantitative data compared to anything like business analytics or finance or other majors.
Mm-hmm. And Patrick.
So I guess this is for just non-business undergrads. Is that the
anybody who's kind of been away for a while and is a little bit nervous about the quantitative aspect?
Yeah. So I remembered a lot of things I didn't think I would remember, I guess. So don't doubt yourself. I mean, I think the last statistics class I took was probably very, freshman or sophomore year of my undergraduate. So that's like, 2012, maybe. Yeah, dating myself. But yeah, all the way back then. And it does come back to you. And I guess I'd say, you have the support from, the program wants you to be successful. So there's support there from you, whether it's from your peers or from, a professor's assistant or even the professor themselves. There's a lot of support available for you. Like I said, I said on this call, quant, even though I have the background, still not one of my strong suits. And I've made it through so far. Have I always done excellent in that class? Not always, but I've made it through. I've gotten the support and I feel like I've learned something and can apply something out of that class. And I think that's the important part, that you feel comfortable being able to, look at other people's work, maybe that you've hired that are the expert to do this sort of work, and you're able to understand the thought process and how they got there. So that's, I think, focus on that. Maybe not that you're going to be doing this every single day for the rest of your life, but that you know enough that you're able to, work with people that do know how to do it and are able to understand what they're saying and being able to be critical and ask questions.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, Carl?
I don't have a lot to add to what the previous panelist said. It's a mix of all of that. Your closest allies are going to be the fellow other students in your cohort. There's someone to be really good at quant and definitely can lean on them for help. And the faculty and staff are amazing. And you will have opportunities. It's not like you have to do quant all the time. There are going to be other opportunities. So yeah, I just amplify what the previous panelists have said.
All right. Well, we'll close out with our final question on, the biggest piece of advice to any future applicant looking at an online MBA. And we'll just go ahead and stick with you, Carl.
Yeah, I saw this question as well. I mean, in terms of advice, I'd say, follow your heart in terms of where you want to go and be willing to accept change and explore new possibilities. I think for me, when I was applying, I had a general idea of where I wanted to go, and I was okay with that ambiguity. I think embracing the ambiguity and getting excited for what the changes is really an important step in terms of when you're looking to apply and start that journey.
Thank you. Waipav?
Yeah, I'm going to just add to what Carl already said is that, it's never too late to get that MBA degree. If you're hesitating that, I've graduated from my undergrad so many years back, I don't want to go back to school, or should I go back to school again? Don't doubt yourself, just do it.
Oh, very good. And Patrick?
I'm going to echo both Waipav and Carl by just saying, just do it. I sat on the fence for a while, and I should have just, taken the leap and done it. It does seem like, challenging and overwhelming, and we're not lying to you by any means, right? It is tough. We've all said that you need to be able to manage your time, but it's totally worth it, and you can do it. You can fit it into your life and your schedule. So I would just say, take the leap and go for it. Pick the program that's, best suited for you and that works well for, your life. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you, in the next couple of years, speaking at one of these panels and encouraging other students to take the leap as well.
Well, that's great. We hope to see that as well. That's a great sentiment to end with. I want to thank all of our great panelists for your insights and advice, and for your time, of course. And thank you to all of our viewers who's tuned in. We have a lot more great online panels coming up throughout the day, so please be sure to keep tuning in. And signing out, I'm Christy Blyzesper with Poets and Quants, and thank you for listening.